Welcome to your progressive reformer class. So I'm going to be teaching Suzanne today, but you can also imagine that this is a group full of people going through this program together. And hopefully you've got a reformer ready to do the class with us as well for some self-mastery practice too. But this program is also a lovely one to teach your clients as practice also. So let's get started. Susie's going to start with a roll down. So starting with the feet hip distance apart, outside edges of the feet nice and parallel. And then just feel the stack of the head lined up with the back of the ribs lined up with the pelvis, and the thighs and the legs feeling very vertical. So you've got that weight placed right down through the front of the ankle joint. And we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose, and then exhale through the nose and start to cascade chin toward the chest, rolling the spine forward off your imaginary wall, and then letting the pelvis pivot around the legs to go down as far as possible. Breath in at the bottom and breathe out. Maintain the forward curl of the spine so that the pelvis begins to roll back up, finding neutral before the spine is able to unravel. Breath in at the top and breath out, start to roll down. Think of lifting the back ribs up off the back of the pelvis, creating more space between the ribs and the hips on both sides of the waist there. Inhale at the bottom and breath out. Let the hip joint right down at the greater trochanter start that movement back upright. Let's do two more. Breath in, really expand the collarbones. Breath out and start to roll forward and down. And feel as if you're curling your spine forward into your legs. So the lower back really is bending to bring the chest close to the knees and then rolling back up. Beautiful, really finding the expansion of the breath up through the crown, down through the tail, and then keep the length as you change the shape and go forward for this last one. Perfect, and the weight is trying to stay through the front of the ankle joint the whole time. Breath in at the bottom there. And breathe out, feel the sitting bones drawing down toward the back of the knees. Let the hips come level with the pubic bone and stack all the way up. Okay, so we're going to pop 2 red springs on. So for this reformer, we've got coloured springs, but your reformer might just have 5 equal springs. So this is equal to 2 if you're going by that measure. And then we're going to lay down onto your back, making sure that the headrest is flat, shoulders against the shoulder blocks. Heels up onto the foot bar, hip distance apart. Beautiful. And just come a little further off the very edge of the heel so that where you've got the front of the ankle joint weight when you were standing, you want to imagine that that's where it's able to sit when you're lying down here with your feet on the bar too. And then just push the knees open slightly there, Sue, so they line up with your armpits, and feeling a really lovely magnetic closure at the tops of the thighs. Let's do a little print and breath here. Breath in through the nose and breath out. And just starting to notice the sensation of setting up your neutral pelvis, hip bones and pubic bone level, trying to line it up with the bottom ribs. Maybe that feels a little sticky at the moment and it isn't able to really find the carriage. But hopefully as you breathe, you might start to feel some heaviness there. Let's inhale, prepare for an imprint. And breathe out, let's pivot at the hip joints to take yourself into a curve of the low back. Inhale to rock back to neutral. And then exhale, let's pivot around the hip joint to let the lower back draw toward the carriage and the hip bones draw up toward the front of the ribs. So one more there, just exploring the initiation at the hip, going into that posterior pelvic tilt, and then feeling the depth and the softness of the lower back, able to bend deeply towards the carriage. Let's go into a pelvic curl on the next one. So rolling from that imprint all the way up into your bridged position. Kneecaps reaching forward down in the shins and into the heels. And exhale, let's cascade from the throat, trickling that water down through the belly button, rolling it downhill into the tailbone back to neutral. Breath in at the bottom. And breath out, let's start to pivot around the hip joints and rolling the spine up, keeping the eye gaze up to the ceiling. So it can be quite tempting to look forward and to flatten out that curve in the cervical spine, but we want to really try and keep that there, pressing down through the arms. So as you go, trying to feel like you're pulling the carriage further and closer onto home, onto the stopper, keeping the springs closed the whole time. And rather than just pushing the spine down into the carriage to create that articulation, almost imagine that you're forward curling your spine to get back down again, so that you are rolling the weight into your pelvis and legs. And that's going to give you more lightness in your spine and more ability to get some movement through those areas of your back, which might feel tight. How's that feeling, Suze?
Good, thanks.
Starting to feel some back of legs connecting. So let's hold at the top here, and you can focus on reaching the knees forward, closing up the springs, and on your exhale, see if you can get your sitting bones to come up into the fronts of the thighs, just that little bit extra. Inhale, hold it there, and on the exhale, see if you can get that little bit of extra juice out of the base of the pelvis and the top of the thighs. 2 more breaths like that. Really feeling the groundedness through the feet, the length through the feet, and the big toe and the little toe sharing some weight, even though there's not a foot bar there. Last breath, feeling the back of the shoulders, the back of the arms really lovely and heavy. And then we're going to start to trickle down on that next exhale, keeping the pivot of the pelvis under till the very last second. Beautiful. And now let's circle the arms around and place them behind the head. Take the 2 legs up to the tabletop, shins parallel to the floor, and feel as if the thighs are dropping straight down into the back of that beautiful, heavy, broad pelvis. Chest lift 3, breath in, prepare, breath out to curl forward. Inhale to lower and exhale to curl forward. So feel the frame of the arms and the shoulders stay where they are, and then tumble the weight of your trunk forward through that low back especially, and into your pelvis. So if you want to try and bend right down between the ribs and the hips where you feel some stiffness, and that's just going to deeply connect you into your center. Good job. And as you unravel the spine back each time to the carriage, try to keep the connection between the alignment of the rib cage and the pelvis, and allow your thoracic spine and your sternum to feel like it gets that length back. So there's as much control going back as there is coming up. Last one. Let's stay up here. Hula number 3. So let's rotate to one side. Inhale, come back to the center, keeping high, and exhale to go to the other side. So see if you can continue to feel diagonal draw of your ribs down towards your sitting bones, and getting more forward energy into the pelvis. And then you can get some more twist right through the upper thoracic, where the collarbones are, where the armpit axis is. See if you can imagine almost a doorknob right there at the center of your chest that you're turning more and more and glancing back towards your elbow each time. Which side did we start on? Did we start on our right or our left? Our right. So we're going to finish on our left. And we're coming back down, lower the head. Keep the legs where they are. Just hold the pegs there, Suze. Okay, so we're going into spine twist. We're going to inhale to rotate from the waist. Take the pelvis and the legs over in one piece. And exhale to come back to the center. Inhale. So when you inhale, let's inhale slightly before we begin the rotation, so that you can really use the inhalation to expand into the back ribs and give the length up through the crown of the head, so that the shoulders can really stay anchored. And then you'll feel like you can get more sense of groundedness as you rotate. Good job. Just lowering those heels down just a smidge there, Suze. Yeah, beautiful though. And the knees aren't sliding by each other. The thighs are connected towards each other like there's magnets at the top of the legs. And it's almost as if this position is just one leg joined together, not having 2 separate legs side by side. Good, let's finish to the left. Perfect, and we're starting to be lovely and warm. Let's send those 2 legs straight out on top of your foot bar, resting them down. Reach your arms up to the sky, getting ready to come up. Let's inhale to chest lift, reach forward. See if you can dig deep and roll up to sitting to change the springs for footwork. So we are going to choose what Susie likes to use for her doubles leg and footwork, maybe 3 reds and a blue. Perfect. But with the footwork, it's really, the load is going to vary according to your client and what they need. What you want to caution is going too strong, too fast, where they get pushed around by the spring and aren't really able to hold their alignment. So heels on the bar, hip distance apart. Again, notice where the heel is on the bar. It's not right in the middle of the heel, it's slightly to the front. Think of the stretch upwards of the toes. Knees push open just slightly there, Suze. Beautiful. Inhale to prepare, exhale. Work from the hip joint to press back. Bend at the hip joint again to come in. And exhale to press. Inhale to come home. Good job. See if we can get all the way into the stopper, just that extra little bit of hip flexion at the end there. And when you're going to push away, how about we think about doming up from under the arch of the foot? Like the arch of the foot gives you some kind of propulsion back, but as you come back in again, could you imagine the arches spreading? So if we were to be doing a standing jump, for example, that's how we would use our feet. We get the spring tensile lift and then the absorption as we bend and come down. So that can really help you find some better feedback into your pelvis as well. How does that feel for you? Good. Good. Last time. Perfect. Come all the way back in and let's bring the toes parallel down onto the bar. So we want all 5 of our toe knuckles represented on the bar before you go to push away. Just pause there for a sec, Suze. Let's take this foot, this lefty, a little further out and the right one a further across. Beautiful. And then she wants to get a little bit more length through the right side of the pelvis. Perfect. Inhale, prepare there. Exhale, press off. Lovely. Yeah, that's much better. Good job. So for Suze, I can see on the right-hand side, that half of the pelvis appears to sit a little more anteriorly than the left. So if she really concentrates on getting the down draw of the sit bone into the back of that right knee, down into the foot, it will also push her weight over onto her left leg to balance it up. Yes, how's that? Yeah, that's nice. 2 more to go there, and you can keep thinking about that foot cue. So as you go to push away, could you feel the dome of the arch of the foot, but as you come back in, can it spread a little longer? Beautiful. Okay, heels together, press away. So I want to keep flowing really smoothly between these positions. And as you stretch your 2 legs there, Suze, can you draw the top of the thighs more towards each other right at the end of the movement? So feel as if the space at the top of the thighs, the knees, and at the shins kind of closes up all at the same time. And before you bend your knees, think about pivoting again at the hip joint on the way out, but also on the way back. Last 2 there. And keeping the ankles fairly stable. That's really, really well done. Pressing down through the arms, broad through the collarbones. And coming back home, we're going to go straight out to the heels wide. So the angle of the foot is lined up to the angle of the thigh bones, which you're doing a really good job on there, Suze. So keep going and imagine that instead of pulling the toes back towards the shins, can you think of the whole of the foot pulling back toward the shin as you straighten your legs? So that will just help to give more drive down through the heels. Yeah, well done. Beautiful. Did that help? Yeah, that's really nice. So if you think about the ankle joint really kind of drawing the foot back as you go to stretch, you'll feel more length down through those heels. And because the legs are apart, much harder to get the feedback going on the upper thighs kind of staying closed up. So think about that magnetic attraction. One more time. We're going to skip the toes out wide and go straight to the raises and the prances because we've got some extra singles positions to do today. So by the time you're getting into more progressive and intermediate level program, you may not do all of the doubles positions. Yes, really lovely. So think about getting an ankle joint movement and a hip joint movement at the same time to create that raise and lower. So if you forget about the hip joint, it can feel a little forced through the knees and also the ankles. So as you press down through the heels, think about the shins dropping back into the back part of the ankle. And as you rise up, can you think about them puffing up to the ceiling? Let's start the prance. Good job. So as the knee bends, think of that side sitting bone kind of arcing up into the back of the knee. And that will help you to keep a common closure between the two tops of the thighs. Really lovely. Eye gaze is still going up to the ceiling, which shows that that pelvic alignment is really good because the top of the spine and the bottom of the spine are going to talk to each other. If we're tucked down below, chances are we're going to be flexed up above. And then coming all the way home. Good. We're going to stretch the two legs over the foot bar, reach the arms up to the ceiling and curl forward and up to change for a singles leg of footwork. So let's maybe go for the 3 red. Heels on the bar, hip distance apart, and then lifting one leg off. We're just going to do 4 before we go into the progression of the single heels. So press away and come back home. Good, and press away. And you'll notice on the single heels, both feet have that flexed position, both ankles I should say. And we're thinking still about pulling the foot, the whole of the foot back toward the shin. Beautiful, that gave you a good drive. And now the next one I think is where we add the progression. So lengthening that left leg up to the sky and then coming back to the tabletop. 4 of these as well. So you can imagine Suze pushing your right knee out to the side a little bit as you return home, especially so that the top of the right thigh turns out a little and pulls across into your midline. Good. Is that your last one? Yeah. Hold there. Come back in. Okay, Jake the peg. So this bent leg now starts stretched. We're going to inhale and exhale. It goes straight down. And it goes straight up as you come in and you press. Beautiful. So funny exercise name, Jake the peg, but you kind of thinking of that straight leg like a peg leg. So like that knee is unable to move, there isn't a joint in the center of the leg, and there's this beautiful hinge and hip disassociation. And as that long leg comes down and the 2 straight legs are side by side almost to each other, you can really feel how you're trying to connect the legs. One more time there, Suze. Excellent. And let's repeat that whole sequence on the other side. So 4 regular single heel, 4 progression, and then Jake the peg. Wonderful. And on the floating leg, or both really, imagine curling the little toe back toward the outer knee, but then pushing the sides of the knee a little wider, and that will help you get the adduction at the top of the leg. So if you think abduction slightly at the knee, and then it'll give you that adduction higher up. Well done. So as you straighten that leg there, Suze, just think about the sitting bone arcing more up into the back of the leg so that there's more length on that right side of the waist. Yeah, nice. So coming back in, this leg starts straight. Okay, hold there for a little minute so you can feel. I'm gonna get you start further down just so that right hip can get more scooped under. That's it. And then we're gonna push away on the exhale, lower the leg. So with Jake the peg, it can be tricky to get the coordination of where to start, and often clients can end up doing the straight leg going up as they come in, which is not a problem, it's just different choreography. So it's much easier to pause at the start position and get them to straighten their leg up to the sky before they push off. Good, very, very nice. So let's stretch the 2 legs out long again over the foot bar, coming up for a spring change. Inhale, chest lift, exhale to peeler. We're going to do the 100 and coordination. So red and a blue maybe, or 2 red if you're feeling strong. Or if you're just starting out, you might like just 1 red spring. Okay, but we're at progressive levels, so let's assume that you've had some self-mastery at your basic level, starting to gain some strength and awareness. Okay, so straight into 100 progression before we hold out for the 100. Let's exhale, curl up into chest lift and stretch the 2 legs out long. And then bend the knees, raise the arms, lower the head. So just use this 100 progression to be a bit of a setup. See if you can keep the diagonal draw of the ribs, that 12th rib, down into the carriage, down toward the pelvis as you lower the head there, Suze. Yeah, so let the breathing really kind of go up through the head, down through the tailbone, and out broad and back rather than broad and front. Gorgeous, much better. I think here's our last one to hold up, and we've got a fist in our straps to give better connection into the back of the shoulder joint. So breathing and really get a vigorous pump going on. That's it. And the arms want to pump a little higher, kind of towards the hip joint and upwards of there. Beautiful. So see if you can keep, with every breath, bending that little bit extra through that sticky part of your low back. Feeling as well the sitting bones reaching up through the back of the legs and the closure at the top of the thighs. Perfect. And think of the armpits turning to talk to one another and the arm bones turning out as much as you can. Good. Susie's doing that breath through her nose so she can really make use of the diaphragm supporting her center. Perfect. 2 more breaths here will give us our 100. Last one, a little bit higher. Oh, that's it. And then bend the knees in, raise the arms. Good. Coordination. So we're going to do 4 with the arms straight and 4 from a triceps position. So let's exhale to press out. Open, close the legs. Bend the knees in first. Get deeper into the chest lift before you let the arms go back, the head go back. So that little moment of the legs coming in towards you, can you feel almost as if there's a diagonal tug of your thigh bones right back into your lumbar spine, allowing you to curl deeper and deeper, making use of the pulley of the hip flexors. Oh, that's really great. Here's our last one before we modify the arms. And the legs are going about foot bar width apart. So let's start with the elbows tucked into the sides. Now, we're going to come up and down with the chest lift each time, just like we did, but if we wanted to progress, we would stay up in chest lift. So we exhale, curl forward, reach the legs and the arms, open, close the legs, and then bend the legs in, then bend the elbows, lower the head. Good. So keep that going, and you want to think about almost having a downhill angle from your elbow joint into the back of the shoulder when the elbows bend. Well done. And when you do the legs, think about almost stretching a web as you open and close so that there's a sense of resistance. I think we had last one there. Beautiful. Same spring, pop the feet into the long straps now. Ready for your strap work? So where the strap is sitting on the foot is really important, and Susie will adjust once she's got her 2 feet into the straps. You want to, again, just in front of that ankle joint so that it's like the same as when you're standing and you're doing your footwork. So froggy to start with. So lift your heels up in line with your knees. That's good, a little higher, yeah. And then you can get more sense of that sitting bones going up into the back of the legs to help you. And then just stretch the feet forward just a little bit from the ankle, yeah, less of the toes. Susie's got very flexy toes. Okay, yeah, awesome. Breath in and breath out. Let's push the thighs away and inhale to come in. So keep that going, looking for that groundedness through your pelvis. And you want to think about having that bend at the hip joint before the knees again, because when you think about it, this is actually a very similar movement to leg and footwork. You just have less feedback and stability with these more mobile straps than you would have having your feet down on a bar. So that looks really, really great. And this exercise is so perfect for Suze to get that sense of the external hip rotators warmed up, because she tends to have just a slight bow legs alignment that she will default towards. So this is really helpful for her to get that closure at the back of the pelvis. One more time. And then we're going to go to circles. So keep that sense of closure, lift the legs up to the top and press down. Circle around, back up to the top and press. So you want to make your circle as big as you're able to keep your pelvis in the same position, lined up with your rib cage, and then getting a sense of true circumference conduction and oiliness in the top of the hip joint. So if you start to feel more like you go into a posterior tilt and imprint as the straps come around and up to the top, then let's reduce that a little. And let's reverse on this next one. So start by going out to the side, down and around, and then back up to the top. Yeah, that's really, really nice. Beautiful. So feeling a little bit of a sense of domed underneath the arch of the foot, almost like you're collecting the strap into your foot, can also help to give you some feedback. One more time there. And stay in the low position there. So it's for the low openings. Inhale to split and exhale to close. So almost as if you're cleaning the top of a table with your heels, making that arc out to the sides. Excellent. So still feeling that sense of turnout from the top of the thigh bones, but without finding a forced neutral pelvis that's coming from your back. So you really want to be able to get the glide of the sitting bones going up. Let's do 2 more, looking really, really good. Last one. Okay, we're ready for short spine. So if you did, for any reason, lift your headrest up, make sure you pop it down and maybe just scoot down to give yourself a touch more space where your shoulders are. Okay, so we start in the same position as the little frog. And you can see here, Susie's got a really lovely deep hip flexion range, challenging herself to keep the pelvis down. So we're going to exhale to press out into the little frog. Inhale, 2 straight legs, fold over and try and find the stopper, even if it means your pelvis is lifted a little. So Susie didn't have that because of her lovely long hamstrings, but you might. Bending your knees once you're rolled up and then curling down, keeping the feet where they are, rolling the spine and the pelvis away from the feet, and then really working from the back of the hips to draw back into the start position. Press out on the exhale. Inhale, fold the legs over. Keep the tail down as long as possible, but when you can't anymore, make sure that you let the pelvis lift so you are on the stopper when you roll up. So that's a very important point. You don't want to be rolling up without having come into the stopper, even if you do have tightness in the back of your legs. Very nice. Pressing down through the arms as well. Feeling almost like a pelvic curl sensation when you go to roll up. And can you keep that sensation of curling under more as you bend your 2 knees, bringing your heels back towards your bottom so there's a little more tightness on the straps? Fab. Okay, awesome. Once you get back to the neutral pelvis, take the 2 feet out of the straps, finding the foot bar. Send your legs up over the bar. And we're coming up for a spring change again. So inhale, chest lift, exhale to curl forward and come up. And after that ab sequence, that should feel a touch easier. Let's go 2 red springs. We're going to do a semicircle preparation now. So the semicircle preparation is the same type of movement pattern, but without the range into the extension. So we're going to be on the carriage, heels up on the bar, hip distance apart, headrest still staying down. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, let's start to curl up into your pelvic curl, all the way up to the top. Keep coming nice and close to home with those springs. And then you're going to press out into the extension, and then you're going to roll the spine down once you're out there with the long legs. Find your neutral, bending at the hip joint, then you're going to come back home all the way. So exhale, you're going to roll up again. Good. Feel the sitting bones really coming up into the front of the thighs, nice and spacious in the back of the knees, and then push away. And as you push away, your hips will naturally lower down. So you don't want to force them trying to stay up as high as they were, because of course, as you straighten your legs, your trunk is lowering down and you're trying just to achieve one lovely long line with that beautiful posterior tilt. So it's not going to feel great if you try and keep your hips up as high as they once were. Let's make it the last one in this direction. Perfect. And again, it's almost like a pelvic curl combined with a leg and footwork feeling. So let's push away now. This direction is a little harder to feel the articulation of the spine because the range is going to feel smaller. The hips will lift, 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 lift right up from the base of the pelvis as you find the stopper before you start to cascade back down again. Really lovely. And again, push away 2 straight legs. And then start that feeling of the imprint, articulation. Use the arms and the shoulders here. So they want to be a nice kickstand for your trunk and body. Good. Lift the eye gaze a touch more there, Suze, but really, really nice. Let's just do one more in this direction, everybody. Good. Excellent. And then we're going to send your 2 legs over the bar again to transition up to seated, ready for our knee stretch series. So we're going to go to a red and a blue spring. That is pretty firm. If you wanted to make it a little lighter, you certainly could. So round position to start with. You might like to just give your feet a stretch first. So sit back onto your heels in the toe sit position. Use your hands, get your clients to use their hands to pull the heels back and square off the toes. And then you can glance down, make sure your knees are in line with your hips. Hips hover off the heels, and then find that posterior tilt for yourself and really feel the draw of the ASIS up into the back ribs, and then see if you can find even more elongation of the back ribs away from the back of the pelvis. That's magic. Now move from the hip joints. Let's go inhale and exhale, pull in. So there's a nice little dynamic. As you pull in the exhale, you want to think about really like getting that movement from the hip joint. Perfect. The shoulder blades are going sideways around the ribs and down and out through the hands and the pinky finger. You're holding onto the foot bar so that there's a really good sensation of connecting to the back of the shoulders. There is a feeling of closure at the top of the thigh bones to help give that upward feeling. Let's do 2. You've done thousands. 1 more. All right. So let's go to a flat back now. So not neutral, flat back, which means that the lumbar is flattened. So it's almost a tiny sensation of imprint to feel the updraw of the ASIS. Yes, wonderful. And then from there, keep thinking about the shoulders, puff the back of the head back in line with those back ribs. And then let's go same breath. Inhale to push, exhale to return. Well done. So once you've set up your trunk alignment, if you really just direct your thoughts to only moving at the cog, at the hip joint, then hopefully you'll feel all of that beautiful uplifting sensation, drawing back through the heels to give the back of the legs the power, pushing the thighs back in space. Last 2. Last 1. Well done. Okay, down stretch. Let's keep the same spring. This is Susie's extra special favorite exercise. This is a challenging one. So instead of just hanging forward in the pelvis, which is so easy to do, and losing the position of the heels against the shoulder blocks, you want to keep thinking about the sitting bones going down into the front of the thigh bones, ASIS drawing up, 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 and then the sternum going up so high that it gives you a little sense of back bend through the thoracic. You can feel a sensation of narrowing through the arms. So the start position, holding this, is a lot of work. All right, we maintain that shape. We inhale to push back. And we exhale, go forward and up. So go again. Think about as you come forward, the sitting bones are going through the thighs, forward, the sternum is going up through the ceiling, and you're just creating this lovely arc. So as you push away, try not to drop your head and look down. It's very important that you keep your eyes going forward and diagonally up so that the upper back is able to maintain its extension. Good, so really keeping that connection between the front hip bones going up into the front ribs. Heels pressing back into the shoulder rests. Last one there, Suze, that's incredibly beautiful technique there. And then we're going to come down and we'll go to a red and a yellow spring for the up stretch sequence. So you could also just have one red. Okay, so up stretch number 1 first. The heels are halfway up the shoulder blocks. Definitely not so high that you've gone right up into your maximum instep range there. Try to create a shape where the hips are backing up over the heels. Susie is very flexible in the back of her legs, so she's able to be back there and have a nice long straight spine. If not, then you might need to move your body weight further forward over your hands. Alrighty, so the line of the trunk stays the same. You can reach your sternum a little bit further forward there, Suze. Yeah. Imagine the sternum is standing on the foot bar between your hands, and your head is standing on the foot bar between your hands too. Inhale, pivot at the hips, push the carriage. Exhale, come home. Inhale to pivot. Exhale, come home. So we're getting that lovely feeling of up draw, the legs pulling up into the pelvis being so high and powerful that the spine can just fall away from the pelvis out through the hands. Good job. So I like to imagine like I'm getting up off the carriage as I let the springs return. So almost like I take my body weight off the carriage and let the springs close. Beautiful, one more. Okay, up stretch number 2. From here, pivot at the hips and the shoulders to come out into your front support. Exhale, pivot hips and shoulders to come back up. So keep that going. Really try and get the timing of it so that you feel you arrive at your front support with your hip line and your shoulder line just at that right moment. You don't want to leave one of those joint movements behind. The sitting bones go down into the front of the legs as she goes out into the long position, and she's driving back through the heels, but equally forward through the sternum and through the top of the head. Really good. Just feel the shoulder blades puff around the side of the ribs and down through the hands. That's great, Suze. It gave you a little bit less kind of lean into the elbows. And back up. Now come down onto your heels, ready for the elephant. Lift all 10 toes up if you can. Inhale, push away from the hip joint and in. So we like to finish with the elephant here just to give that extra length through the back of the legs. So we've done lots of hard work there through the other long stretch exercises. And the elephant to finish the series just gives some release and relief there. So you'll find commonly that after the hip flexion 2 category, the last exercise will be the elephant. Armpits turning to face each other. Beautiful. Last 2. Last 1. Okay, kneeling lunge. Let's take it to 1 red spring. You might like to stay on the red and the yellow if you like that much support. It really depends on the dimensions of the person. If you've got a very tall person or someone with more bulk to them, then the heavier spring may be preferable. Okay, so starting really upright, and then already begin the hip bones up toward the ribs, the sitting bones dropping down, and then see if you can get a sense of pushing this thigh back in space. So can the pelvis stay where it is and the thigh push the carriage and the heel back? How's that stretch for you? Is that good? Yeah. And instead of letting the chest go forward over the leg, because that's going to make it so that one end of what is getting the stretch is not on pull, it's much better to get that lift up through the upper chest and the back so that the top of the hip flexors up toward the lumbar spine there is getting the release as well. And then pushing back into the hamstring stretch position. So we're going to get Suze just to slightly drop down on her right hip, feeling more like the right hip can slightly posteriorly tilt to give the reach through the foot on that right side. And Susie has the flexibility available to her. So she's so far out that it feels more comfortable for her to have her hands on the frame than the foot bar. But someone who might be a little tighter would keep their hands onto the foot bar. 3 to 5 breaths in each position. Good job. And then let's come all the way in and swap sides. All right, wonderful. So start on the stopper, or enough space for your hips on the front leg. See if you can go into that posterior pelvic tilt, really getting it to be from your hip joint. And then push the carriage back just with the thigh. Amazing. So it's like invisible Pilates because you barely see the carriage move, but I can tell that that was like a change in the release for you. It's kind of like you're sucking your thigh bone back in space. Good. And then see if you can get a little bit more opposition with the sternum too. If you've got somebody with great balance, you could take the hand away, or you could also raise that arm up into the air, and that would give even more stretch and uplift. Okay, let's go into that hamstring stretch for yourself now, choosing the right amount of range for you. What you want to make sure is that you're going back as far as it is a movement from your hip. Because if you are really tight and you're having to be so slumped forward and the pelvis is very posteriorly tilted, then you're not really getting the stretch that you want out of that position. So much more important not to worry about how straight your front leg is, but more about how much movement at the hip that you're able to get, or that your client is able to get. So much better for it to look less impressive. Okay, let's go into our short box series now. So Susie's going to pop the foot bar down and pop all those springs on and grab the box. And you'll notice that your clients need to be the ones to pick up the equipment. It's going to be much more efficient in a group class. Plus, the flow is better, and also you're going to protect your body as an instructor. Better for them to do the movement once than for you to have to do it 8 or 10 times. Okay, so the strap is around the foot. Beautiful. And we're going to do Genie. So we're making the Genie and then bring it into the torso. And where you've got the strap is important. So regularly we see clients put it around their toes and then they're sort of hanging off their toes. Think about what you felt like doing the footwork heels, and we pulled our whole foot back towards our shin. That's what you want to try and do here. So let's inhale to stack spine really lovely and tall, and exhale, start to curl the pelvis under, rolling forward almost like you're doing a chest lift at the same time that your pelvis is taking you back, and then go forward, up and over your hips to come back up again. Inhale, and then exhale to roll away from your pelvis and feet. Beautiful. So when you're doing this one, try not to fall back into your spine and trunk. And if anything, feel as if you travel forward through your torso as your pelvis takes you back. So it's like your pelvis is the one that is moving your trunk. Lovely. Keeping the kind of reach of the knees down the shins and down through the energy at the front of the ankle. Keeping the arms really solidly pulling into you. So make almost like an arm-shaped imprint into your trunk. Glancing down toward the pubic bone so that we're getting a sense of that cervical flexion to match the lumbar flexion. That's going to give you the best result. Yes, really lovely. So if you start to notice that you're going further back with your upper back than you are moving through your hips, that's when you know you've gone too far. So you only want to go back as far as it's always from the hips. Last one, I think. Beautiful. Flat. Circle the hands around behind the head. So we did a flat spine already in our knee stretch. So it's not neutral. We're thinking of the hip bones lifting up toward the front ribs just slightly, so you're just at the back of the sitting bones. Inhale, hinge from the hip joint to take that shape back, and exhale to get back up again. Inhale to go. So you want to make sure here that you're taking your pelvis with you. If you feel like your pelvis stays where it is and then you just lean back from there, then you're definitely going to be changing the shape of the spine. And the aim is to keep the shape of the spine the same, and for your trunk, including your pelvis, to pivot around stable legs. So think about the shoulder blades up swinging, up through the elbow points, the armpits turn to face each other, and that's going to just give you this seatbelt effect of the shoulder blade coming around external obliques, crossing over into your inner thighs. Ready for tilt now. Inhale to go up and over, and exhale to come up. Good. So keep that going. And with Suze, what I'm going to get her to do is feel a little bit more sense of the bottom ribs drawing back, almost like she's doing a chest lift. Yeah, so you can go forward a little bit more with your, there. Yeah, lovely. Otherwise, you just end up slightly with the thoracic spine behind the pelvis. And if anything, you bias a slight forward diagonal here just to give some more release and stretch through the muscles like the quadratus lumborum, the erector spinae. And Susie can tend to be a little bit tight there, so that's really important for her. Go forward as you side tilt a little bit more. Yeah. Up and over, keeping that space between the two sides of the waist. Yeah, lovely. Last one to the left. Come back up. Find yourself in that slight flat back position again. So you can lift your hip bones. Yes, that little bit extra there. Now we're ready for our twist. So we're going to inhale to rotate and flat back at the same time. Exhale to come back up. Inhale to twist and flat back hinge, and then come back up. So you want to think about the timing of those two movements happening together. It's that hip disassociation, taking your pelvis with you, but then giving yourself the swing and the rotation through the thoracic, turning your eye gaze towards that elbow. Beautiful. Think of the two whole feet drawing back toward the shin just to drive you down through your heels. Good, and almost like a little pulling apart of the strap to give you your hip abductors for support as well. Last one on the left there, Suze. Perfect. Okay, we can come out of that and put the box away for the moment. And now we have got chest expansion. So we're going to do one red spring for our chest expansion. So we're going to sit back and pick up the straps, hook the toes around the edge of the carriage, and we're holding the small loops. So always small loops for hands generally and big loops for the feet. And where Susie's got her feet is you feel almost like the shoelaces part of your foot is drawing. So again, we're just getting the whole foot to pull back toward the shin. All right, brilliant. So start with the arms forward so that there's pretty much no tension to the spring, and that will help you be able to position yourself where you've got your sitting bones going right forward into the front of the thigh bones, and you're able to travel forward and try and find the very front edge of the knees. Beautiful. And then lifting up lovely and tall and broad through the collarbones and feeling a sense of closure of the shoulder blades flat on the ribs. That's really great. You should feel like you're on a knife's edge, like at any moment, if you didn't have that work in your hips, you might fall forward. So we're going to pull the straps, turn your head to the one side, turn it to the other side, come back to the center. So you want to think about the arms staying really close to your sides. So almost like they're part of your trunk. And they're so narrowing in towards you as you pull the straps that you're almost able to lift your head up off your shoulders, turn it really freely. Yes, amazing. So the hip work keeps giving you that up draw, that uplift. Gorgeous. And so even if you can't get your arms very far back, but you're keeping that trunk alignment as you pull, then you're going to get all of this amazing work down the back of the arms, the back of the shoulders. Good. Are you alternating your head?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So alternate which side you turn your head to first. We'll do one more, or wherever you're even. Good. Hips are working so beautifully after everything that we've done so far to prepare it. Okay, pop those straps back down again. Let's stick with that red spring, and we're going to do the skating preparation. So stepping off the carriage, yeah. Now we're going to start, right foot goes onto platform first, left foot onto the edge. Make sure you've got your feet lined up and one's not further forward of the other. And then bending the two knees. The weight will stay slightly over that right leg and trying to find your neutral pelvis up right here. So we're going to exhale, press away through that left leg. Good. So you want to think about almost a bolt that goes through the hip joints, and that stays level and closed and connected. And then imagine abducting down through the side of the leg whilst the closure happens at the top. Yes, amazing. Let's hit that just a touch. Yeah. Beautiful. Keep thinking of swinging your shoulder blades upward through your elbows there, Suze, especially the left one. Yes. And then feeling like the outer edge of the 2 feet is really heavy and active down. Amazing. Last 2. Good job. That standing knee, make sure you're also thinking of abduction on that leg too. Last one. Perfect. And then you can carefully step back off the back of the carriage with your carriage leg. Okay. Awesome. So then we've got a nice back view of the pelvis here. And the right side, we can see for Suze, tends to want to be hiked compared to the left. So if she thinks about that sense of posterior tilt on the right, just to get the sitting bone to push her knee further forward, yeah, then that evens her up. And then she can go to push out. And it's very, very hard to keep that alignment as she straightens her leg, because this side of her hip wants to create the abduction by anteriorly tilting more at the same time. So that's very, very tough for her to control. Yeah, good. And it forces more the external hip rotators on the right and more of the hip abductors on the left. How's that feel? Good. Yeah. Yeah, and that's really even through your shoulders now as well. So feel a little bit more the blade edges of the feet. So try and feel some energy into the blade edges of the feet, both of them as you go to push. Good. 2 more. Yeah. Last one. And then carefully stand up and step down with the carriage leg. So step back and then step off the platform. Bring the foot bar all the way up. We've got a side reach now. So that spring should be fine. Come in sitting into the mermaid or the Z sit position. And try and see if you can get sense of heaviness through the 2 hips. It may not sit all the way down and we don't want to force that. Hand on the bar just in front of the shoulder line. We inhale out to the T position in the tilt. Exhale, turn the palm and side bend over. Inhale, come out to your T and exhale to come back in. Beautiful. So keep that going. And just like we said in our box tilt, which was our other lateral exercise, sit back slightly into the sit bones so that you're not thinking so much neutral there. That's good. And then lift the back ribs up and puff the bottom of the back ribs and feel almost like a chest lift sensation slightly. Yeah, and that just gives that extra sense of length through those muscles at the sides of the back. That's really nice, Suze, now with your alignment. That might feel to Suzanne like she's more curved, but looking at it, now the back of her head, the back of her ribs and the back of her pelvis is lined up. One more. And feel as if now that can help you to access even more side bend through that thoracic spine, especially the top. All right, let's turn over and do the other side. So feel the up draw of the ASIS and sit on top of the sitting bones, hand in front of the shoulder. Inhale to push and exhale to side bend. Beautiful. So keeping that going, I'm just going to take a look at that alignment from the side. Always you want to make sure that as an instructor you're walking around and positioning yourself where you can see the range of movement from a couple of different angles. So here I can see the line up. And then if I was to watch her from front to back, I would be able to see the range of that lateral flexion. So this right arm can get even more turn out through the humerus. Yes. And then side bend that touch more. Oh, amazing. Yeah. And sometimes even though somebody knows what they need to try and do to get a little bit extra juice out of the exercise, they can't do it unless you guide them into position using your hands. So it's always, no matter the level of ability you're at with your teaching or with your self-mastery, you always need to have those touch points with somebody as well to make sure that you're getting some hands-on and giving some hands-on. Last one. Okay, we've got some extension coming our way. Let's grab the box for the long box series this time. Pulling straps. We'll stick with our red spring and pop the foot bar down. So making sure that you've got the same amount of courage on either side of the box. Okay. So Susie's going to grab above the straps. She can grab even further up. You can grab the straps really high up and have the arms fully up overhead. That would make the spring tension a little stronger. So sitting bones drawing down into the top of the thighs, feeling that arc of the back ribs off the back of the pelvis just feels so delicious, and the upswing of the shoulder blades, and just see if we can get, this right humerus to give you that little extra. So it feels like the left shoulder blade is up swinging and the right humerus is turning out. Gorgeous. Palms definitely facing in towards each other the whole time and staying narrow towards you as best you can. Let's inhale to puff the back of the head up. Start to lift the back of the head. Reach the sternum forward and pull the straps back toward the top of the bottom, and then lowering back down. So keeping that going, you want to think about almost like you're traveling forward as you pull your arms back. Well, you are traveling forward, but even if your body was able to travel and slide off the front of the box, you're thinking about giving yourself that much forward energy through the window of your shoulders, rather than just popping yourself upward off the box into a maximal back bend. So much better to have this length of the sternum going forward, opposing the sitting bones and the tailbone going backward. And then you can use the back of the shoulders and the back of the arms and closing them really tightly. Beautiful. And feel as if almost the feet and the legs are also coming up into the pelvis and propelling you forward. Yeah, great. Gorgeous. Just right at the end there, Suze, careful not to lean into your elbows to get the straightening of the arms. See if you can get even more pull up through the top of the arm bone, almost like there's pegs on the back of the arms lifting up to the sky.
Keeping going.
Sorry. We'll do number 2 now. So we're going to now go to number 2. We want to hold the straps a little bit further down. So Susie's already moved her hands down. Good job. So you hold that thoracic extension and you want to think about making a lovely broad arc, almost like you're wearing a cape. And as you take your arms out to the side, can you make the width of your cape opening out feel like it comes from your shoulder blades? And then as you close your cape, as you close your arms, can you feel the downward rotation of your shoulder blades? So maximal downward rotation of your shoulder blades as your arms come back, so that there's a sense of real closure through those back ribs. One more. Turn out through the arms as best you can. Put the pegs down, straps back on the pegs, and come back into your rest position. Enjoy a moment there. It's hard work. Feel the sitting bones going down into the heels. You can either hold underneath the reformer and give yourself a little bit of a different stretch there, or hold the back corners of the box, or reach the arms forward. Just try and find your breath again. Awareness into your breath. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to go to the backstroke now. So we're going to have one red and one blue spring. Probably you would choose the same spring that you would have chosen for your 100 and your coordination. It should be similar. Either red and a blue, one red or 2 red. So carefully pick up your straps, the short loops. Okay, brilliant. And you're going to start with your hands, the back of your hands towards each other above your sternum there. All right, Lift the heels slightly just so that you can tumble the weight of the legs more into your center. Okay, we're going to inhale to go straight up, open, and around into the 100 position, hands toward the top of the thighs. Pause, and then come back into that lovely tight ball. Up, open, around, pause, back into that lovely deep ball. So keep going. We certainly don't want to hold for too long up here. It's a challenging position. This is our full body challenge exercise. So you want to think about no carriage movement until you start to circle around to the 100 position. Up, open. Now the carriage moves. Hold, hold, back in. Last one, I think. See if when you bring your legs in, you can deepen your chest lift that little bit more, widen the elbows up through the shoulder blades, and then we can come down. Whew, well done. Okay, so put your straps down. Let the box come back to home. You should have a decent sweat up by now after all of those exercises we've done. So come off the box, come to the front, and we'll finish with a roll down there, Suze. All right. So feet hip distance apart. Hopefully you feel like your weight is dropping down through the front of your ankles a little more naturally now, just sitting there. Breath in and breath out, start to cascade down into that forward curl of the spine, keeping the legs nice and vertical and allow the pelvis to pivot around the legs. Amazing. Breath in at the bottom and breath out, moving from the hips to send the sit bones down into the back of the knees. And then when the pelvis reaches its neutral, then you can grow out of that strong pelvis. Last one. Good. Just having a reset moment at the end, drawing awareness and focus before we release it and continue on with our day. Curling through that lower back. Beautiful. Uplift the hip bones, down draw the sitting bones. And then let's inhale to take the arms up. And exhale, push the air away. One more time, and inhale to lift. And exhale, push the air away. And we are finished. Well done.